Hey everybody, John Ploskina here. Came out to share the sunrise with you out here on my motorcycle. One of my favorite things to do. I don't know how well the Beaver Run Reservoir is turning out on camera, but I hope you can see it. It is a stunning view for me. Alright, we gotta be real careful coming through here because look at all these deer. I hope you can see that. Yeah, I don't know if you immediately think of motorcycling as an outdoors activity, but if you like animals and nature and you love to hunt or fish or camp, motorcycling gets you out in nature in a similar way, actually. Alright, so anyway, let's talk about the Kavanaugh nomination situation. Because I found all of that to be truly repulsive. The left's desire to use unsubstantiated, decades-old allegations to destroy someone's life and credibility so that they can get a political win. It was really disgusting. I can't believe how open they were about it. And I know that Trump supporters are celebrating everywhere because they think that the left has overplayed their hand and that the Republican base is now jazzed up for the midterms, and that this has helped to close the enthusiasm gap because Trump supporters were kind of resting on their laurels a little bit after the election, and some of us maybe were a little bit downtrodden after so many failures and so many instances where it seemed like the president either wasn't willing or wasn't able to accomplish the agenda that he ran on. But something to be aware of if you're celebrating today is that Brett Kavanaugh is a old school, good old boy, Bush administration, GOP establishment type. And all of you who are celebrating Lindsey Graham, I realize that it's amazing to see Lindsey Graham stand up and take some gumption for anything that might be good for the Republican Party or conservatives or traditional American culture in any way. But the truth is, he was protecting his own. He was protecting neocons and warmed over leftovers from the Bush administration. So this is a typical situation in American politics where it feels like sometimes there's just nobody to root for. And if you don't like this kind of thing, if you don't like these big, ugly, hysterical media circuses, I got some bad news. But it's bad news that you should be aware of. Because truth hurts, but the truth shall set you free. This is the new normal. Things are never going to get better. If you are waiting for things to be like they were in the 80s, where your perception is that everybody was kinder and less hysterical and less crazy. Look at all these deer. We got to be super careful because we have suicidal kamikaze deer here in Pennsylvania. And I don't know if they're stupid or if they're just willing to sacrifice their lives to take out a human in the great struggle between species for dominance on this incredibly harsh and cold planet. But I'm not ready for combat today. When I'm out to kill deer, my weapon of choice is a bow and arrow, not a motorcycle. You can kill deer with a motorcycle, but you're not going to be happy at the effect on the motorcycle, and probably not on your body either. Anyway, if you're a conservative and you're waiting for a return to the 80s, where we're going to get another real conservative just like Ronald Reagan, who's going to come in and fix everything. And, you know, maybe you thought Ted Cruz was going to be that person, or maybe you thought Rand Paul was going to lead us to some civilized, libertarian future for the Republican Party. I know that's something that I've been hopeful for at times. But this is the new normal, and I'll explain why. In nature, there is a concept called entropy. And that is the idea that the amount of disorder in a given system can only increase over time. So basically, everything in the world is always getting worse. And if you're a homeowner, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because once you own a house or property of any kind, or even a car, then your life becomes a constant struggle against entropy that will never end. Because everything is always breaking. Nothing lasts forever. Everything needs to be maintained and replaced. Anyway, living organisms suffer from entropy too. Everything alive gets old and dies eventually. And that's part of everything just slowly wearing out and breaking down. And something to know about human civilizations is that human civilizations are superorganisms. And this is something that maybe you haven't thought of before, but once you become aware of it, you can't stop seeing it. It's all over the place in your daily lives. Human beings are eusocial organisms like bees or ants. We form big social groups and collaborate and work together and solve problems and survive on this harsh and incredibly difficult planet. One single human being alone potentially is a smart, capable animal that could survive and do reasonably well on this planet. But humans, when we collaborate and we come together to form a functional superorganism, we have conquered the Earth. Pretty much unquestionably. And like all organisms, human superorganisms also eventually begin to decay and break down. And we know from history that although we form these massive conglomerations of power, these huge empires that stretch across massive amounts of territory across the planet, they don't last forever though. Just like beehives or ant colonies, they compete against each other for territory, and they try to reproduce, and eventually they grow old and die. So what we're seeing here is end of empire stuff. We're on our way. We're not quite there yet, but we're on our way to having the kind of degeneracy and madness and insanity that they had in the days of Caligula and other really horrific Roman emperors. Now, I know that that's a bleak prospect, but you don't necessarily have to despair, because although it's said that history repeats itself, but I tend to roll with Mark Twain. Mark Twain says history does not actually repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And I think you can definitely see that in the world that we live in today. So I think although it's hard to argue that we're not rhyming with the end of the Roman Empire here in the United States, there are things happening that are unprecedented. And the main example is you watching me on this YouTube video right now, or maybe you're watching it on DTube or Steemit or something. But humans' ability to collaborate has been changing so fast, and there are so many new ways for us to get together and collaborate and pool resources and share information and share knowledge. Unprecedented things are happening all the time. And the United States is in and of itself perhaps unprecedented in some ways. I know that we're just another empire now, But we were founded on Enlightenment values. The United States was founded on the idea that we don't need an aristocracy to tell us how to behave, that government should be limited, and the result, the fruit, and that religion and the state should be separated. And the fruit of these ideas has been extraordinary. It was the power of the individual people living their own lives and making their own decisions in the United States that allowed the ruling elites to harness us through the power of the state and turn us into this empire. But it's also interesting to note that we have had the longest peaceful transition of power of any nation in history. Other nations have existed longer, but as far as I know, no other nation has gone this long without having their government violently overthrown. And that's something. That means something. What happened to us was that as soon as the ink was dry on the Constitution, there were forces within the United States who wanted to subvert it. And if you're ever curious about that, go read about the debates between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists and Hamilton and the other people who wanted to start a central bank like the Bank of England. And the fears of Adams and Jefferson and others who never wanted a central bank because they had seen the power of multinational corporations. Well, they weren't multinational. Big corporations like the Bank of England and the Dutch East India Company. The founders probably couldn't even have imagined the horror of multinational corporations. Blood would have come shooting out of their eyes if you had told them about it. But that was long ago, and our leadership class has forgotten all that. And really, especially once we had the Federal Reserve, a central bank that it seems like we can't displace, that was pretty much it. The growth of the surveillance state and the empire has really, it's been logarithmic ever since the creation of the Federal Reserve. So if you're looking for solutions, and I sure as heck hope that you are, I believe that the solution is to begin to dismantle these massive conglomerates of power. It's because the core of our issue here, the reason why our elections and these other conflicts between our political elites are becoming so bitter and so hysterical is because you have such a gigantic and diverse country, such a gigantic and diverse mass of humanity. And we are all fighting and struggling over the one gun in the room, the one opportunity to use the power of the federal government to impose the way that we want to live on others. And it's not even so much that. You know, the average Republican isn't out there thinking, ah ha ha, we're going to force the Democrats to live in a low tax, low regulation environment. And the Democrats, I think in general, aren't laughing about how they wish they could take over and force leftism on Republicans, although sometimes maybe they are. Really, what's at the bottom of this is that everybody wants to organize their lives in the way that they see fit. And political ideologies are nothing more than rationalizations for the existence of a violent ruling elite, using the way that people want to organize their lives as an excuse or a rationalization. So you need to have a ruling class that tells you what to do. Because if you don't, then there's no way to organize society. Society would just collapse and fall apart without Hillary Clinton or George Bush or Donald Trump or somebody like that to oversee us all. And I don't buy that. And if you're here watching this channel, I hope you don't buy it either. Or at least I hope that you exercise some skepticism. Well, that's all I got for now. This has been fun. I hope you enjoyed this. I will have more content like this. going forward, because motorcycling is something that I love to do and do all the time, and my YouTube channel is something I love to do and want to do all the time, so it makes perfect sense to combine these two things. I don't know why I didn't do this before, but I've learned my lesson. So hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. I'm so sorry for the long period without content. But I'm hoping that that's over now. All right, my friends. It's a harsh world out there, so please keep thinking. Bye-bye. Hey everybody, John Ploskina here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell, because the big social media sites like YouTube and Facebook are not going to help us build a new alternate media to counter the mainstream narrative. So please share these videos with your like-minded friends and anyone else whose eyes may yet be opened. And of course, don't forget my website, www.johnploskina.com. Well, it's a harsh world out there, my friends, so please keep thinking and keep riding motorcycles through it. It'll help keep you sane. Bye-bye.